Good morning, everybody. My name is Ed Lee, City Administrator for San Francisco, and today we are announcing yet another important step in what we've been working on quite fiercely with our mayor's leadership. As you know, last year we were one of 3 cities that established the Green Vehicle Showcase, and it's just outside, and it demonstrated what we can do with charging stations and the future of vehicles, all in an effort to reduce our city and our Bay Area's carbon emissions. Today we're making another major announcement, and it has to do with our Bay Area's efforts to take our responsibility up and work with the car manufacturers and all of the other government entities in the Bay Area to support the manufacturing and the introduction of electric vehicles. So with that, I'm going to, of course, announce our leader, Mayor Gavin Newsom, has been leading this effort with us and clearly making it exciting for us who lead fleet management in all of our cities in the Bay Area to be working together and forming the Electric Vehicle Regional Cooperation. Mayor Newsom.
Thanks, Ed. And thank you all for being here. And as many of you know, I'm a, well, I don't want to say fanatic because that could be misinterpreted. I'm very passionate about the issue of electric vehicles. I've long stated and said, and it's over and over, you hear it repeated by others, repeating ourselves, that this is game-changing technology. If we're going to get serious about oil independence, if we're going to get serious about reconciling a failed foreign policy, if we're going to get serious about jump-starting a domestic economy and a green economy, we've got to start focusing on electrifying our vehicle fleet. If we're going to get serious about global climate change, or global climate disruption, as it's been referred to, we've got to get people out of the gas stations and working towards building renewable energy sources to generate the electricity that drives these vehicles. The good news is we've been saying this for years and years, but we haven't had much product to point to. The good news now is we have product to point to. 2010 is going to become the seminal year in the history, I believe, of the electric car movement. Of course, I could have said the same in the late 1800s when there were more electric cars on the road than there were traditional combustion engines. But nonetheless, I hope we've learned our lessons from that failed past and we're not going to mistake the jump start of the EV1 and GM and its success and failure with what's going on now, as we've seen much more widespread distribution internationally of automobile manufacturers that are getting into this game. It's not just an aside, it's not just an asterisk, it's not just fulfilling the creative needs of a particular company. This is really the beginning of dramatic, from my perspective, change of the automobile industry around the world, and Nissan is leading the way. Nissan is not going halfway. I've always said halfway is no way. They're going the entire way with fully electric vehicles, the first mass distribution of the same in the world. 100,000+ of these vehicles will be distributed, we'll hope by this time next year. They'll be implemented, or at least the American implementation will happen in about 5 core markets, San Francisco among them. And appropriately so. We've long said that this is the region that has the highest adoption of hybrids and alternative fuel vehicles on a per capita basis than any other part of the United States of America. When we came together, Mayor Reed and Mayor Dellums a year ago in November with leaders from BACMed and from MTC and you name the acronym of all the regional groups, MTA included, we made the case that there's no better place to adopt new technology in terms of alternative transportation than the San Francisco Bay Area. For a good reason. You don't have to convince the people out here, the customer base, of their merits. We have already been there. We get it. All we need is product, and we need that ability, once we get the product, to plug in. And that is where I'll just conclude my statement and introduce the experts you see behind me, that the only way to make this work, to make the Nissan Leaf work, to make the Chevy Volt work, which is coming out next year, one of 2 cities that Chevy's rolling out their new technology to make real the promise and vision of electric vehicles, is to build a ubiquity in terms of an infrastructure, to make sure that we have the charging points, that we deal with, Brian was talking about a moment ago, range anxiety. That same anxiety exists with gasoline except we dealt with range anxiety with gasoline by building gas stations. If you didn't have a gas station, you'd be as concerned as you do with an electric vehicle that it's a one-way trip. But you know there's a gas station nearby. That's exactly what we need to do with the electric vehicle. We need to make sure there's charging stations nearby, and we need to make sure that we're building a regional partnership to do that. San Francisco is 47.5 square miles. Big deal. You can go one way to the end of the border, but you may not get back if you're out of this city and you're down in San Jose. That's why we need Mayor Reed down in San Jose doing exactly what we're doing here, and we need to make sure that we're on the same standardized technology. You would hate to go down with the old GM paddles, they look like platypus paddles, and try to plug that in with today's technology because there's no charge station for those platypus paddles. You need to have the same kind of standard charging stations in San Jose as well as in Alameda County and Oakland, up in the North Bay, and throughout Northern California for that matter. Now that folks down in Southern California have just picked up on this, which is tremendous. We're glad they're following our lead, I say respectfully and lovingly. And now those counties down there are doing the same to connect the northern part and the southern part of the state. So collaboration is key in these efforts. That's why we had 9 counties in the Bay Area come together and build out a 9-point plan where we all agreed, and there were representatives from the mayor's office here to talk about what we've done to follow up and reinforce their commitment so that we again create scale and ubiquity in terms of building out that infrastructure, both in public charge stations as well as providing a platform and a framework to get permits so that you can go over the counter very quickly and very easy to start building out the infrastructure in your garage or in parts near your home and property so that the opportunity to avail a charge point exists for everyone that seeks it. So this to me is a very exciting. I think 20 years from now we'll be looking back at these moments as really critical moments in the history of this remarkable and dramatic change in terms of the automobile industry and the change in terms of consciousness around new technologies and addressing, again, all of these issues that prevail as it relates to our dependency on oil. I'm a gas tax person, not cap and trade. I say that with love and respect to the Copenhagen discussions, but until we deal substantively with that, at least let's start changing our behavior and creating a different model where ultimately our policymakers can follow, and that's electric vehicles. So again, Nissan, thank you. Brian, thank you for your willingness to come out here and support this. Johanna and my team and Nat Ford and Ed Lee who's done so much good work to try to make our city administration of this process work, and to Bob and the Department of Environment for all their outstanding work. I will not talk about all the federal dollars we're going after and the grants we've already received, but this is serious, this is real, and now it's about execution and follow through, and that's what we look forward to in the next year or so. Okay, thank you.
And not only has it been critical, actually it's been fun to work with our counterparts in the Bay Area. So I want to introduce several of them. Lauren Livingood, representing Mayor Chuck Reed from San Jose.
Hi, thank you for having me. We'd like to go ahead and thank all the members of the Bay Area Climate Council as well as the Bay Area EV Corridor Program. We're very lucky to have been involved in their endeavors, and it shows that this really needs to be a regional effort and not just a city-by-city effort. We'd also like to applaud Nissan for choosing Bay Area to launch their new zero-emission vehicle, the Leaf. There seems to be a lot of great and big ideas going around in environmental policy, and we're very lucky to have all of the right players at the table to make things really happen. As far as down in Silicon Valley, San Jose is actually still in the process of solidifying sites for battery charging stations for electric vehicles. We're also working with PG&E to prepare energy grid for the extra storage load that is going to be required for these electric vehicles. And we're also making any necessary modifications to our infrastructure to accommodate the electric vehicles. In the long term, we obviously see electric vehicles as cutting our greenhouse emissions gases in half, but in the short term, we see them as imperative in establishing and securing permanent jobs for Bay Area residents. Our work has great potential to protect the environment and create green tech jobs. And this effort to make the Bay Area electric vehicle ready it shows the innovation that can happen when the public and private sectors work together. So we're very thankful to be a part of this endeavor with the 9 other cities and counties that are involved. Thank you.
Okay, from across the Bay, City of Oakland, representing Mayor Dellums, Miguel Bustos.
Thank you, Ed. Good morning. It's a delight to be here representing Mayor Dellums and to stand with Mayor Newsom and Mayor Reed's office. It takes that leadership to make anything happen. And the electric vehicle movement in the Bay Area is at the forefront of making things happen around the country. This is a regional collaborative that has taken a year of working together, partnering with one another to make it happen. It's not easy figuring out how you're going to create a charging station, but we've looked at streamlining the process so that anybody, whether you're going from one side of the bay to another, can park somewhere and charge their stations. In Oakland, we're looking at garages, public spaces. We're looking at some of the private buildings to work with, and so we're very delighted that Nissan has chosen the Bay Area, a place of innovation, a place of creativity, a place of diversity. And like Mayor Newsom always says, the Bay Area is also a place of doers. And so we're delighted to be here. We're glad that the Bay Area is the place that will be the electric vehicle capital of America. Thank you so much.
And as the mayor said earlier, we're working with all 9 counties in the whole Bay Area, so all of us are going to create the same standards and lead that off. We've had a great time working with Alameda County. I want to introduce Douglas Bond from Alameda County.
Thank you, Ed. As Ed has said, this is not just an effort for the 3 cities. This is also expanded to the local 9 counties within the Bay Area. We are very excited about promoting Nissan and their partnership here in bringing electric vehicles to the Bay Area. Alameda County is also looking to add as much infrastructure as needed so that we can actually move forward with the electric vehicle technology as well. We have a strategic vision within Alameda County, which is to create happy, livable communities, and this is a step for us moving forward to provide that for our community as well. A shocking 58% of our overall greenhouse gas emissions come from our transportation within Alameda County. The electric vehicles and the zero-emission vehicles that they are will actually drastically reduce that overall emissions for the county itself. We are very excited that we are on our way toward partnering with Nissan and moving forward with the effort to bring electric vehicles to the area. Thank you much.
So Brian, our mayor has gotten us ready in-house. We're also getting ready for the whole Bay Area. We think we're ready for Nissan's introduction. What do you say?
Absolutely. You know, I had a very long speech prepared for today, but I'm going to shorten it quite considerably. I'd first like to thank Mayor Newsom for inviting us here today. It's a real pleasure to be part of such an exciting program. The whole EV corridor program is a tremendous opportunity for us with our first zero-emission vehicle. It will be the first in a whole portfolio of electric vehicles, and the great initiative that has been taken here is that it will smooth the permitting process. This is absolutely essential in order to make the customer experience of buying and owning an electric vehicle something which is easy, very simple, and hopefully also very affordable. The Leaf vehicle itself goes on sale towards the end of next year. We're about 12 months away from the launch. The San Francisco Bay Area is an absolutely key launch market. As we've heard, on a per capita basis, this really is the destination point for zero-emission vehicles. And we intend to make our Leaf, our first vehicle, a big success here. Just a little bit about the vehicle. The car itself has no engine, it has no gas tank, it will run for about 100 miles without a charge. It is a car which we believe will be affordable. It is something which the masses will be able to own. The car has tremendous pickup and acceleration. You have an opportunity to see the vehicle outside the building today, and I encourage all of you to join us and come outside and have a look at the car. The car that you see, the concept vehicle, is on a 22-city tour, which started in the middle of November in Los Angeles. It's on its way up to Seattle after today, and will complete the tour in the early part of next year. Already we have about 30,000 hand raisers who have registered interest in owning the vehicle. So we're very excited about the car. We think it will be a mainstream solution for the greenhouse gases that we know is a problem globally. So we're very excited about the partnership. We look forward to working with Mayor Newsom and his colleagues, and we look forward to a successful launch in about a year's time. Thank you.
So you can imagine that if we didn't change the way we do business in the city and work with private sector to make sure that anybody who wished to purchase one of these cars could in days have a charger installed, we just would not be a very welcoming entity for the whole Bay Area. So that's what we're doing in all the 9 Bay Area counties. We're working with their individual Department of Building Inspections, working with their traffic departments to make sure that there's a consistent, standardized a day's response or turnaround on anybody who buys one of these vehicles, so that the car manufacturers and the buyers could have the confidence that they'll have a charging station that is able to be installed in their home without much hassle. And then through our parking department and MTA, a number of garages that will have these charging stations made available both for the public and the private sector. We also are in the midst of finalizing our negotiations with 2 of our car sharing companies in the Bay Area, and they've also indicated, Zipcar and City Car Share, that they'll be willing buyers of this to add to their fleet as well as to service our city's fleet while we reduce our fleet, as the mayor has so instructed, also because it's better for our own local economy to do so. So with that, I wanted to open it up to any questions from members of the panel for our mayor. Anybody have questions?
Just one final thing. We also are looking forward to some interesting announcements on electrifying our taxi cab fleet. We're almost 50% of the way there in terms of alternative cabs, alternative fueled taxi cabs, but pure electric vehicles we haven't necessarily adopted and implemented yet, and we are about to do the same. So, I'm sorry.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm Rich Peelish with Fleets and Fuels here in the city. You anticipated my question a little bit. I was wondering how many of the 30,000 vehicles, how many of the hand raisers are in San Francisco? I mean, you're going to be buying leaf vehicles, and a larger question, how many of the 30,000 do you think will be fleet vehicles?
Well, and Brian, since he saw those hands raised, he can identify the individual who did so. We've done something. We worked a number of years ago, Mayor Wynn and I, out in Austin, Texas, former mayor there, was very eager to put something together and support an organization called Plug-in Partners and start doing not soft orders but hard orders for alternative fuel vehicles, hybrids at the time, and now pure electric vehicles, or at least plug-in electrics. So they may have a traditional engine as a backup like the Chevy Volt. We have, Johanna, I think, placed over 1,000 or so hard orders, meaning we commit ourselves over X number of years as a municipality to purchase these vehicles. The whole argument against electric vehicles has been there's no market. People don't really want them. That's why GM decided to get rid of the electric vehicle. They said, no one really wants them, which was remarkable considering I waited 2 years to get it and wanted desperately to keep it, and then they took it away from us. But nonetheless, that's been the impediment in the past. So what we're trying to do is work with mayors. We actually did some resolutions at the U.S. Conference of Mayors to extend a similar commitment. And so we have hard and soft commitments. It sounds like what Brian's referring to, if it's just a raised hand, not a piece of paper and a pen attached to it, that they may be soft orders. And to the extent that he can illuminate us and where those are coming from, what we're trying to do is create some hard orders and real commitments that are tangible that people could bring with them in terms of the manufacturing commitments through municipalities. So I don't know if, Joanna, you want to amplify on that, or Ed, since you're our vehicle fleet guru, that commitment.
I think the mayor's right. During this year, with the models that are made available to us from manufacturers such as Nissan, we'll be able to use them and match them up with the fleet needs. Because we have to go through that and see what is appropriate for the various needs. I know that we'll be purchasing a number of these in some capacity because I know there's needs for the smaller vans. We transport a lot of people. We have in our own fleet, for example, just a memo sent to the mayor last week. We're identifying a number of vehicles that are over 12 years old that we've got to get rid of. And they are in some degree of use, but there'll be better uses when we do change to the electric vehicles and do have the supporting environment for them, that they'll be able to do the exact same thing without any problems and be able to transport both people and materials all around the city.
I just wondering that you're talking about the charge point. So where exactly in the city, like San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, and Alameda County?
Well, again, you got to create a framework where you can get to point A to point B. So they need to be strategically deployed. First and obvious place to deploy electric charging stations is in public spaces, public garages, both on street and off street, meaning both structures and both lots. In addition, San Jose, I know, is doing this. We have done some of this, including right outside City Hall, in traditional parking spaces. I know that there's some use in some piloting of technology that allows you to plug into a street light, where you can use the electricity that already exists in every street light in the poles and actually extend off those poles rather easily a charge point. We have something called San Francisco Park. As you know, about 25% of all our parking meters in San Francisco are going to be converted to pay boxes. We're going to do peak time pricing. Part of that implementation are going to be charge points on those pay boxes where you can actually charge your car using a parking meter. I don't know many cities that are doing that. That would be the ultimate, I think, expression of ubiquity in terms of creating real opportunities for people in a very convenient way. As you know, city lights, all these lights, are running about 97% with renewables. A small percentage of these lights are running on, I think, coal, but 97, almost 98% of a Chechi system in the municipal load is completely green. So I love the folks, someone sees something on TV about this, comes up to me and says, you make me sick, you liberals, you environmentalists, you sit there and you talk a big game about electric vehicles, but then all you're doing is building more coal polluting plants in order to fund. So there's nothing benefited with the environment. And I have to remind them that's simply not true, particularly with our municipal load. So when you're plugging into one of our parking garages, you are plugging in with a completely renewable portfolio, or at least 97, 98% renewable portfolio. We might as well take advantage of that. So those are just some examples. You've got companies like Better Place that want to create switch stations, like gas stations, so you flip out a battery and replace it with a new charge battery in less time than it takes to fill up a tank of gas. That's the vision of companies like Better Place. Coloom Technologies, it's to do what they've done in terms of their demonstration right out front. And you can see some of those technologies taking shape. We don't want to pick winners and losers, so we've got to be careful about that. So we want this to be open-ended. We just want to incentivize. We got a $1 million grant from Speaker Pelosi. We are now identifying how we're going to use that grant to roll out some demonstration projects. We got another $1 million grant that I guess I just announced, that I'm not supposed to announce yet, coming down the pike. So there'll be another $1 million, and we're getting other funds. We've got some workforce training dollars. Community college has gotten some money. There are millions of dollars that are out there that are coming down from the federal government to help build out this infrastructure, not just private dollars in addition.
Brian? Scott from KGO. You talked about affordability. What are we talking about price range here? And also the marketing. Are you going to have showrooms? Are you going to have a big ad campaign? How are you going to get the word out to the general public?
Yeah, we are still 12 months away from the sales launch, so it's too early to give a precise price point. But please remember what I said about affordability. In terms of the monthly operating cost of this vehicle, we expect it to be comparable with an equivalent gasoline-powered engine vehicle. So something like a Civic, for example, you're going to see monthly operating costs, which will include both the MSRP net of the federal tax credit and also taking into account the fact that it will be powered by electricity rather than by gasoline. So that's the kind of price range that we're looking at. So the second part of your question?
Basically, the marketing campaign, are you going to have showrooms, people are going to be able to see these vehicles?
The plan, yeah, this vehicle, we will be going mass market within a couple of years. Initially, the volumes in calendar year 11 will be relatively modest, we think. But the marketing campaign you will see beginning in earnest as we progress through the next calendar year. Basically, the car will be available through all Nissan dealers. Initially, we will be concentrating on some of our launch markets, particularly here on the West Coast. And then progressively, that will be spreading right across the nation over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. The marketing will be reflective very much of the type of customers we anticipate. It's going to be very web-based, very digital. Don't expect kind of huge TV advertising for this type of vehicle. The reason we've opened up our website already to hand raisers is we know that's how these people like to have a dialogue. Our website at the moment has live chat, for example. The 30,000 or so people that we have already attracted onto the website were engaged in a dialogue, already exchanging information. We know this vehicle, the type of customer it will attract, that's the best way to communicate.
Yes, Mr. Brian Corwin, John Addison, Clean Fleet Report. I'm also one of your hand raisers.
Okay.
A question about partnerships with utilities and some new partnerships. We've seen solar transform with programs like PPA. With utilities, there's been exploration of leasing, eventual redeployment of batteries within their applications. Where may these new kind of partnerships lead us in terms of affordability, leasing of batteries, redeployment of batteries, things like that?
Great question. You know, this is very much a revolution in the car business. As Mayor Newsom said earlier, we're very much a first mover. We intend to be a leader in this space. The Leaf will be only one of a number of vehicles we will be bringing to market over the next few years. The type of relationships and collaborations you refer to really are in their infancy at the moment. We are looking at leasing as well as sale of the vehicle, but you know, we have 12 months in order to explore those relationships. We're not really at the point where we can make any formal announcements yet. But really, because we're at the cutting edge, you know, everything is on the table. I think with this type of vehicle, you have to explore all sorts of transactions, all sorts of different collaborations with the type of partners you referred to.
And then the utility eventual redeployment or eventual vehicle grid, can you comment on that?
Yeah, in the case of the battery, we know that the battery life is long. There is some degradation in capacity over the course of the life, but we believe the battery itself has a usable life of up to 10 years. Now, Nissan has recently announced a collaboration with another partner to look at the whole remarketing and reuse of the battery. The battery, even at the end of its life in a vehicle, still retains a storage capacity which we believe will have use. So, you know, please don't have in your mind that these batteries will be dropped into a landfill site. The company is very sensitive to the issue of the environment and the reusability of the battery, and that is why we recently announced this collaboration in order to explore what that business model is. Again, indicative of the type of cutting-edge technology we're working with, this is still very much in its infancy. But we're very committed to find a sustainable solution for the batteries. Thanks.
Can you also comment on the climate change conference in Copenhagen? Besides the electronic car, what the San Francisco can do to fight against the climate change?
Well, what we do is what we're doing. We lead by example. We're the most aggressive local climate plan in the nation. 20% below 1990 levels by 2012 is our goal. We've already reduced them about just shy of 6% below 1990 levels. We announced that in September of 2008. We're one of the first big cities to have an independent analysis of our greenhouse gas emissions, so there's veracity behind them. And we're leading with green buildings, we're leading with recycling and composting, we're leading in terms of alternative fuels and biomass, biodiesel, and we want to lead in electric vehicles as well, including, of course, the work we're doing on solar. But nothing more exciting than this, something called SF squared. The question is, well, how do you pay for these things? We can't say how you could pay for the car, but we can tell you how to pay for the electric charging station through a financing program that's rolling out in the beginning of next year. This is being processed through the Board of Supervisors. This will take what Berkeley did a number of years ago for a handful of solar installations and take it to a completely new level. This, from my perspective, is the most exciting. It may be the most exciting initiative, environmental initiative the city has ever launched, because it deals with the issue of costs. It deals with the upfront cost of weatherizing your building, doing energy efficiency upgrades, doing solar or wind, or just doing something like putting an electric charging station in your home. You don't have to come out of pocket with $1 to do that, and we attach it to your property bill. There'll be tens of millions of dollars backing this, what we call Mellow Roofs strategy up, and this will, I think, take the environmental initiatives we're advancing, again, to another level completely and be a model for this state and the nation, and in turn, a model for the framework in Copenhagen. With that said, I've already signed a number of things with other cities so that we've put together our own commitment to local global climate action plans. So if nothing comes from states and nations, at least cities, once again, are connecting across their differences a framework for environmental stewardship. Why is that important? Because the majority of the Earth's population is now living in urban centers. 1 million to 1.5 million people every single week are descending upon urban cores. More people than living in suburban and rural areas. This triggered about 2005. So there's a massive urbanization that's occurring globally. Cities are consuming 75% of the Earth's natural resources already and polluting about 80% of the planet in terms of CO2 output. Cities will be front and center in any global climate efforts. And so really, if I had my druthers in Copenhagen, we'd reverse it. We'd keep all the national leaders and put them back in their respective offices to do other work. It'd be mayors that would be out there signing accords and actually solving this problem.
Can we ask you about other questions later?
Just let's, yeah, later is good. Let's get
in terms of the Bay Area collaboration, is there going to be like a single agency that's going to have some sort of deadlines where all cities are going to have to be ready in 1 year for electric cars, you know, some sort of infrastructure plan?
Well, it seems to me it's a competition. If I were Mayor Dellums and Mayor Reed, I'd be as aggressive as ever. It's a collaborative competition. We all want to be working together, but we also have pride, and we want to avail our cities as leaders. I know that's why in Southern California you just finally saw some things happening. I know there was a little envy about what was happening up in Northern California. This is tremendous. This is exactly what Nissan wants to hear. This is what Chevy and others want to hear, this type of collaborative. That being said, there's no fixed deadline. Look, we are going to do, I'll just give you one specific example. San Francisco is going to do 200 charge stations in our parking garages over the next year and a half. So that's what we're doing. That I know. To the extent that we can incentivize the private sector through SF squared and loan programs, we think we can exponentially increase that. We have very ambitious goals regionally of 150,000 charge points. That is very ambitious, and I recognize that. That was a framework we established in November of last year. That requires Alameda County, it requires San Jose, it requires Oakland, it requires all of these other county administrators, not just mayors, city managers and supervisors, as well as city council members to move aggressively. As the technology takes shape, the demand will take shape, and that will force municipalities to actually start building these things out. So I think you're close. We're not at that tipping point, but 2010, 11, 12, If you're not doing it, you're missing the boat as a municipality. You've got to be very aggressive in order to get these Nissans in and get these other cars in.
One more question about Nissan. About streamlining the process. If you buy a car, will Nissan come to your house and install the electric charger? Is that what you were saying? I mean, I just want to understand this clearly.
No, the plan is that we will offer a one-stop solution for the customer, working with our dealer. Heavy use of the internet. So a customer will typically, in our vision, they will have a dialogue with ourselves about the vehicle, the type of options, specifications that they wish to choose. We will, through the internet and with our dealers, arrange an appointment. This is why the permitting process is so important. An appointment whereby a building survey can occur in advance of the vehicle purchase. Someone will visit the house, obviously, make sure that the building is safe to have a charging station installed. There will be a further appointment made to have the unit installed. Nissan will not do that, but we will contract that with a supplier. We're in the process of finalizing that as we speak. And then subsequent to that, the customer will talk to the dealer about the transaction on the sale of the vehicle. The intention is to make that really a single point of contact, and also reduce the time from the initial appointment to survey the building to the vehicle delivery. And that's why this announcement today is so important. In San Francisco, we want that permitting procedure to be as slick and simple as possible for the customer.
Which it hasn't been.
Does anybody know the cost of something like that, roughly? Just to, you get to buy the car and then do all this process.
I should know. Let me get. I got a bill in my home, so I should. I got to. Let me. Actually, I haven't put it all together. Let you know. I mean, as you know, I had an interesting personal experience. The reason it's frustrating, you have majority of San Francisco residents, as you know, are renters, so they don't necessarily have garages, and so you've got to provide alternatives to a garage. But if you have a garage that's shared by multiple slots or multiple vehicles, as was the case in the apartment building I was living in, you've got to be able to provide a framework where you're not charging everybody else for your electric charge. So you've got to have a dedicated meter. That costs money. That sometimes is difficult. The permitting down at DBI, Department of Building Inspection, doesn't necessarily recognize that. So that's all this back office process that we've all collectively been working to deal with. The idea is to make it inexpensive. In fact, so much so, just to tell you something we have in writing on our little memos, is we want the first upwards, I mean, Bob, you said it, up maybe 1,000 charging stations. There'd be no permitting costs just to get in. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to hire for you a contractor or electrician to put it in, but with SF Squared, you can hire them and get the loan strategy and package, so you actually don't have to be out of pocket. But we want to create real incentives for the installation. So over-the-counter permits, literally same day, same hour. You show up, you have all the forms already filled out because Nissan's got all of these forms aggregated. They've identified perhaps some of their favored installers. That's a private sector decision. Then you come down, you get your permit over the counter. It doesn't cost you anything for the first, for example, 1,000 people that do it. So that there's a real appetite for the adventure of implementing and supporting this strategy. Anything else on this, guys? And then we'll let folks go, and perhaps you have questions for Matt Ford and I on Muni today.
Yes, sir.
All right, Vic. We're on to you. Thank you all very much. Thank you, guys. We'll let you go. And and Matt will stay.
And for those of you, please come on out and